Hey guys, Mass Mechanics here and welcome back to the channel. We got our S10 project here again. Today we are going to start looking at doing some light upgrades. We got a little mini light bar here and a couple rear lights, a harness, some relays, some switches. We got them right here and they should end up right about there, I'm hoping they fit right in these blanks right here. So we're going to start digging into it, and stay tuned and we'll see how everything works. Now when we're starting to do the wiring for our light setup, this is for our S10 build. You know, it looks intimidating, but in reality it's really simple. You can buy a harness just like this off eBay, Amazon, whatever, under 20 bucks. Now here's your rocker switch they give you. It sucks. I'm going to put a regular rocker switch on. You got your relay, which is right here. That's your relay. You mount that on your fender well. Then you get your positive, negative that hook right to the battery directly. Inline fuse, and that branches off. One goes to that crappy switch, which you can easily replace for like 10 bucks, 9 bucks, whatever. And then you got two separate leads for light bars. So say you want to do two pods and a big light bar off the same switch, you can do that. So it's pretty simple. I use the same relay to run my front lights and my rear lights. You know, it's not a big deal. I typically won't run them both at the same time anyways, and being these LEDs draw such little juice anyway, it's not that big of a deal, because we're running just the little small rear lights just so we can see at nighttime when we're in the woods. So as for the switch, this is the type of switch I talk about. As you can see, my silver truck had these as well. It's your simple standard rocker switch. Now even this looks crazy, but when you buy these switches, a lot of times, I typically have been buying this brand lately. It's pretty easy to use. They're cheap. I haven't had any that weren't good yet. You know, bad right out of the box type of deals. I haven't had any from them yet. So I'll stick with them until something like that happens, you know. But very affordable, right on Amazon. And no, I'm not sponsored. I wish I was, trust me. Just like every rocker switch I've ever seen, boat, RV, car, all the same. You got your two grounds. One's a ground for the switch, one's a ground for the lights. That goes off one lead. You ground it right into this, right here, right into that crappy switch that they give you. You just unplug that ground and plug this one in. Now, this lead here is for your lights. I like to run this to my headlight switch, not to the way they want it. They want you to run your feed power here and then link it right over to this lead. That way the light's on whenever this switch is powered. I don't really like doing that, because I like to know when it's dark. I like to be able to see it. So you'd have to flick the switch on to have it light up. And I like to have it light up with my headlights. That way I can see it at nighttime when I need it. So I always run this to my headlight switch power, which is not hard to do either. And then I take this extra lead here, and then I'll link it right over to my rear switch power on the second rocker switch I'm going to use. That way I can piggyback the power off it, and it's all fused, all relayed, so you don't have to worry about fires and things like that. If you start popping fuses, clearly you have an issue with overloading the circuit. Chances are good I've never had that problem with this low voltage stuff, DC. It doesn't really have that much problem when I'm only running two small, you know, I think it has like 6 LEDs in it on each one, and there's 2 of them, you know, so it's very small amount of draw. So anyways, so I'm not going too long and drawn out. This one here is the only open lead that's left. This is your accessory, so whatever you're plugging in to run, say it's the light bar, this wire goes to the light bar. So when you hit the switch, that powers this plug, and sends the power to the lights and turns them on, and shut it off, and that's it. So again, like any other rocker switch I've done, 2 grounds on the top. This first post that's by itself is power to the battery. This is your light power for your headlight switch. And then this goes out to whatever you're powering, so whatever light or any other device you're using. I mean, I have one for a backup camera, I have one for a power inverter, you know, whatever you need it for, that's what this one goes to. So they're all the same. I'll hook up the wiring off that crappy switch, and I'll put it onto this and show you what it looks like and how simple it really is. I don't even have to cut a wire. So hold on, let me get that done, I'll show you. Now, I did this just for video purposes, but here's our crappy little switch. Here's our new switch. I have to change the terminal ends because they use this really dinky wire, and they have a tiny little connector on the end, so I got to upsize it to 1. But this is your white wire, which goes to the relay to kick on and off the lights. Then you have, it was a 3-wire setup, so you got your hot from the battery, your negative from the battery, and then your 1 switch that goes to the relay to tell the lights to kick on and off. Hey, that's that simple. And then the only wire that's left to hook up is this one here, which we have to pull the headlight switch out and just take a look and see which one is the on-off for the headlights. Or I probably will tie it into the parking lights, actually, because you know, if you have your parking lights on, you can still have the light on here too, because your lights and your dash kick on. So whatever your dash light wire is the one you tie this to. So we'll do some digging, and we'll get that done with the power probe probably. And then on, like I said, we still have this open terminal, which kicks right over to our secondary rocker switch. And these 2 switches on the S10 dashes, there's actually holes for these to fit right in the factory dash, which is awesome. So they even look like they're the right size. So we'll find out once we pull the bezel off, but they'll be side by side right next to each other. We'll have LED light bar, and the other one will say rear LED lights or something like that. So pretty simple stuff. Once we get it into the truck, I'll go over the layout with you one more time. We'll get all the lights mounted, and we'll go from there. I dug out my other switch just to kind of illustrate it a little more. This is kind of about how they're going to sit side by side, about a gap about that much in between. So what I'm going to do is these 2 black wires that are sticking out, these 2 leads, those are all the ground wires we need. We're going to combine those into 1 wire and then ground them right into where the switch ground was. So that one's easy. Then this set here, what you can see is I link the main power of both sides here to this 1 lead. This 1 lead goes to the battery hot all the time. And then this one, as you can see, the outer one on each switch, I link those 2 together. Then this goes to our headlight, parking light power. So when the parking lights come on or the headlights are on, this is powered. And that's how simple it really is. And the nice thing is it looks like all these crazy connectors. These come with these switches. I didn't make any of these. I have made them before, unfortunately, but a lot of these type of switches, like that brand I showed you, they come with these wires already in the box. So I can just link the switches together like this, and everything's common and works easily together. So the only thing you're going to have to run is for the light bar. That's very simple because that's already in that 1 rocker switch we cut off, or not cut off, but took off, and that's going to plug in right here onto the light bar one. And then this wire we have to make and send that to the back of the truck and hook it up to where the rear lights are going to be, and that'll be our power for the rear lights. So super simple. I'm really only making, if you buy that cheap harness for 20 bucks and these 2 switches, I have to make 1 wire from here to the back of from the the dashboard, and then snake it through the truck into the back of the truck. I'm not making 100 wires, which is nice. Just 1 wire, and it's all ran through a fuse for the main power, and it's run off a relay to power the front, and the back will be run off the fuse for the power anyway. So I'm not too concerned. the light bar is going to have a lot more power than a 6 LED little tiny light for the back, just so I can see at nighttime behind me better. So that's how they're going to be wired. All you have to do now is tear into the truck, and we can get everything started. So we're going to run a full wiring harness. We're going to put in 2 different switches, and we're going to try to make it look as nice and clean as possible. This is what we're working with. Alright, well, the first thing we're going to start with on this thing is mounting the little light bar here. We got this little guy. It'll work out just fine for what we're doing. We don't need a huge one. I mean, honestly, the bigger they are, the easier they are to get ripped off, especially on something like this where there's not a ton of protection, where it's not like inside the bumper or something. You know, I could put it behind the grill. That was my original idea, but then I thought about it, and with the factory 4.3 radiator running these 2 electric fans, and this isn't the biggest opening as it is, I really didn't want to restrict it at all. So I didn't want to have a chance of this thing wanting to run hot, especially if we're at low speed in the woods for a long period of time. You know, the temperatures could go up, especially because we're not on the highway or something where it would cool off easy. So I thought that this would be a nice spot to put it. The trouble with putting it here is this is 2x4 thick wall square tubing, and to get a drill in there is impossible. I'd need to use like a right angle drill, which I have, but by the time you're done drilling into that, it would be really, really difficult. And not only that, but just to get in there would be hard to work with. It is kind of the perfect spot out of the way, and you can't really see it, but I'm probably going to end up using these factory holes right here on the bottom of this steel bumper. They should be just fine. I mean, you can see how strong the bumper is. There's an old license plate piece right there. These bolts won't even come out. I got to cut them off someday, but don't really care that much. Then I can just run these bolts right through the holes that are already here. They pretty much line up, and we'll get it snugged in, and then we'll start running some wire. Well, there it is, mounted up. I didn't even have to drill a hole. I just used the factory holes. If the light bar was maybe I'd say a ½ an inch wider, it would have fit a little bit nicer, but overall it is doing just fine. It's very secure. I mean, you can't even move it, so it's on there good, and now it's time to start running these wires. So let's get going on that relay setup. So now I'm under the dash here looking for a good spot to run the wiring through. You can see our new floor pan still holding up really nice, but this is the only grommet I can see right here that is got wires going through it, and it's out of the way of the heater box, because otherwise from the other side a lot of this is actually behind the heater box, or not really accessible because the wheel well is right here. So that means we're kind of over on this side of it, so we're probably going to end up trying to run our wire right through here. So let's see if I can get it through on this rock hard rubber grommet. And under the hood, to show you where we're at, we got our 2 wires here. They go to the battery, positive, negative. And then this is the wire we got to run through the dash, or the firewall here. And then the other wire, alright, let me show you where I mounted the relay. I just put it right on the overflow tank, and then I ran the wire underneath here, and then here's our fused power wire and our ground from the battery. And then the other wire comes out right here and wraps around, and then is sitting right here for now until we tie it in to our light wire right that's hanging down right here. So that's pretty much it for under here. Once this is tucked and attached, and then these are run through the dash, it'll be a pretty nice clean install. There won't be wires everywhere. Everything's wrapped and nice. So buying a kit like this for $12–15 is worth every penny when it comes to the cost of a relay at the parts store, the plug, and then we're making all this wire. You're probably going to cost you more money than that. So it's just an easier way to go. Now this, you just unplug the end. This end here is going to be where our switch is attached to, right here. This is the wire that our switch is attached to, and you unplug the end of it. And this is the end we got to run through the firewall. So this is the other side of that rock hard rubber grommet. So I'm going to try to push this through right now and see what happens. Well, we did a little bit of seeking here and found that wire was actually, it looks like the antenna. You know, they probably have it isolated so it doesn't have any interference, but that's not something I'm overly concerned about, because if I actually need to use these lights, then the radio's probably not going to be on. I barely use it anyways because the thing's pretty loud in here and it's hard to hear the radio good anyways. So we got the wire run through. Forcing this connector through was not the easiest thing with these big tabs sticking out, but I got it. It went through. It didn't rip or anything. So now push this back in and start snaking our wires across to over there. So let me get going on that. And under the hood, as you can see, there's where our wire goes through. And it looks pretty good. You don't really notice it that much. I mean, you can see it right here, but not a big deal. Compared to the factory mess, it looks pretty good. So now it's time to snake it across the dash. Well, here is our bezel here for our headlights. I have to give GM a little credit. They did already put that spot in there originally, like right from the factory, and our switches do fit, which is cool. The problem is that the dummy panel on this side is not cut out. So now I have to cut it out to match this side, so I can have one for the rear and one for the front. So I made a template. I don't even know where it is, right there. And now I just have to trim it out. So let me get cutting this out, and I'll get the two switches stuck in there. Now when you're wiring something like this, you got a really easy setup. You got your wires that come right off the battery set up in the relay. You got a power, you got a ground, and you got your signal wire for when the switch is flipped. Super simple. And then the only other thing that you got to worry about is when the lights turn on in the truck, like it's nighttime, you get the switches lit up so you can see where they are. That's the only thing that you have to worry about. And to do that, I like to use a power probe. You don't need one of these. You can just use a test light or a multimeter. But this is my battery right here. Now, to do it, all I got to do is take the end of it and touch it right to the back here of where the terminals are. See? Now, right here, I hit the switch, and we got voltage. You turn the switch off, you have no voltage. So that is our wire for the lights. So once that kicks on, that's going to light up our tiny little LEDs in our switches, and it will make it so we can see them at nighttime. So this is the wire we have to tie into. And if anybody's interested, because they're working on one of these old school S10s, it's this wire right here. So that's the easiest way to do it. It's really quick, and I just figured I'd show somebody who might be intimidated when they're wiring this kind of stuff. All you do is find the signal wire like that. Really simple. And you already have the panel off anyways to put those two toggle switches in. So it makes it really simple. So there it is, tied in. Really simple. All I did was split the wire, strip both ends, add another wire, put a nice connector in there, and then heat shrink it. So now it's nice and waterproof, and it'll be just as good as factory, plus now we have a good signal wire. So now it's time to finish wiring up the switch. Well, here it is, all wired up. We got our light wire running from the headlight switch to the two LED lights to power these switches. Then we got our power from the battery, our ground from the battery, our signal wire going to our light bar, and we also made a wire that we have hanging right here, which has got to get snaked outside the cab to the back of the truck, so that way we have our rear lights as well. So I just figured I'd show you guys what it looks like before I stuff it back in the dash here, and finish this part up, and then we'll get the lights working in the front. And it's starting to get dark out here, as you can see. I don't know if you noticed, but It's getting dark, so we'll probably have to get on the rear lights on another day. So stay tuned for that. Well, now it's definitely nice and laid out, as you can see. Here's our headlight switch. And there's our two new switches now. We'll go around the front here. And there is our little light bar. Definitely super bright. It'll do its job in the woods very well. And you can see the headlight compared to this. I mean, it's drastically brighter. So now we'll be able to see where we're going in the trail. And it runs with the switch. There we go. And now you can see them at night, so they're easy to find. It'll work out great. So now, come morning time, hopefully we'll get into the rear and we'll run that wire that we got tucked away for now. Run that to the back. And we got our wiring for the S10 all tucked away here. It's all inside the frame, so you can't see it at all. And it goes right to the back there. And then, like our Super Duty project, we use the same lights because I was able to buy a 4-pack for super cheap. So there they are. And I'll give you guys a view of the front light bar now there's light out. Because the last time you saw it, it was in the dark. And that's our front light bar. So it came out good. Just a lot of snow. Can't wait for it to melt a little and we can take this thing up in the woods and play in the mud. That'll be a good time, so stay tuned for that. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you found the information valuable and you can use it towards your own projects and